In a restaurant where one meal costs more than a month's rent, a billionaire thought he could use a foreign language to hide his ugly prejudice in plain sight. He made a huge mistake. He assumed the black waiter serving him, a young man we'll call André, was uneducated and wouldn't understand a word. He was dead wrong. What André said next didn't just stun the billionaire into silence, it sent a ripple through the entire restaurant and changed his own life forever. You'll want to see the unbelievable note he received from someone watching from across the room. And before we get into it, drop a comment and tell us what country you're watching from. We love reading them. There are some stories that feel like modern-day legends. You've probably heard a version of this one before. Maybe the waiter was a woman, the restaurant was in a different city, or the language was French instead of German. The names and the places change each time the story is told, but the powerful lesson at its core never does. This is a story about dignity, the quiet strength hiding in people we overlook, and the snap judgments we make every single day. It reminds us that a person's true worth has nothing to do with the job they have, but everything to do with the character they hold. Ethelgard's wasn't just a restaurant, it was a theater of wealth. Tucked away in the heart of a sleepless city, its reservation list read like a who's who of the powerful and privileged. The air itself felt expensive, smelling of truffle oil and aged leather, buzzing with the quiet murmur of million-dollar deals. Every detail was perfect, from the golden light of the chandeliers to the hushed footsteps of the staff, who moved like graceful ghosts. Among them was André. To the patrons of Ethelgard's, he was just part of the scenery, a young black man in a crisp uniform, there to fill a water glass or clear a plate. They saw the uniform, but they didn't see the man. They saw a waiter, but they never saw the scholar. They saw his steady hands pouring a vintage wine, but they didn't see the ink stains on his fingers from long nights spent studying after his grueling 12-hour shifts. André was living a double life. By night, he navigated the often thankless world of high-end service, always professional even when met with condescension. By day, he was a student of the world. Very few people knew he spoke 5 languages. His real passion was German, a language he'd fallen in love with during a study abroad program he'd fought tooth and nail to afford. In the quiet moments on his break, he wouldn't be scrolling on his phone. He'd be in the staff room, lost in a dog-eared copy of Goethe, his lips silently forming the beautiful, complex words. Waiting tables wasn't his dream, but it was honorable work. It paid his tuition and helped support his ailing mother. He carried himself with a quiet dignity, an armor against the subtle insults and the constant feeling of being underestimated. He knew every shift came with the risk of being reduced to a stereotype by someone who only saw the color of his skin. On this evening, the restaurant was buzzing. At a corner table sat a man who radiated an almost suffocating sense of importance. This was Arthur Sterling, a real estate mogul known for his ruthless ambition. He didn't just enter a room, he conquered it. His suit was impossibly sharp, his watch blinded you with diamonds, and his smirk was a weapon. He treated the staff like functions, not people. With him was a younger associate who mirrored his arrogance, laughing too loudly at his jokes. Across the room, at a small, discreet table, sat another man, Daniel Harrison. He was also a billionaire, a tech titan, but he wore his wealth like a comfortable coat, not a suit of armor. He was quiet, observant, and missed nothing. He saw how Sterling waved off the hostess and the tension in the busboy's shoulders. His gaze settled on André, noticing the calm, professional way he approached Sterling's table, a point of grace in a sea of arrogance. Harrison knew that real power doesn't need to shout. He ordered a black coffee and settled in, unaware he was about to witness the main event. Section 2, The Confrontation, The Unmasking. The tension was thick from the moment André arrived at the table. Sterling didn't even look at him, gesturing for water as if André were a voice-activated appliance. André, ever the professional, poured the water and waited patiently to take their order. Sterling, still refusing to make eye contact, decided to have some fun. He switched to German, turning to his companion. The language, in his mouth, wasn't for communication, It was a wall, a private club he was certain André couldn't enter. "Shao in die Aran," Sterling began, his voice dripping with contempt. "Look at him. They hire anyone these days, don't they? Standing there as if he has a single thought in his head." His companion snickered. "Wahrscheinlich kann nicht einmal bis drei zahlen, Arthur. He probably can't even count to 3. The insults hit André like a punch to the gut. He felt a hot flush of anger but kept his expression perfectly neutral. This was a familiar pain, the sting of being made to feel invisible and stupid at the same time. He'd weathered this kind of storm before. He could just absorb it, swallow his pride, and do his job. But Sterling was enjoying the show too much. His voice got louder, and he gestured toward André with his menu. "Ich wet, hat nach nie in seinem Leben ein Buch gelesen." I bet he's never read a book in his entire life. What would be the point? The sidekick added, "His only talent is carrying plates." Ein Teller Träger, nix weiter. A war was raging inside André. Years of discipline told him to stay silent, take the order, and walk away. It was the safe move. Reacting meant risking his job. But another voice, one that sounded a lot like his father, spoke of self-respect. He thought of his mother, who always told him, "Your mind is a place they can never touch, son. Don't let them." Sterling leaned in for the final blow. He pointed to the most complex item on the menu, a dish with a long German name, wanting to watch André fail to even write it down. "Ich hat gern die, Geschmort Kalbschacks mit Kartoffelpüree und glacierten Karotten," he said, deliberately butchering the pronunciation of Geschmort. Then he added with a smirk, "Mal sehen, ob das überhaupt aufschreiben kann." Let's see if he can even write that down. That was the breaking point. The restaurant had fallen quiet. Cutlery had stopped clinking. Daniel Harrison leaned forward, his coffee forgotten, his eyes locked on André. André didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. A profound calm settled over him. He slowly lowered his notepad and, for the first time, met Arthur Sterling's gaze. He spoke. Not in English, but in German. Not Sterling's clumsy, arrogant German, but a fluid, elegant, razor-sharp German. "Verziehen Sie, mein Herr," André began, his quiet voice carrying across the silent room. "Forgive me, sir." He paused, letting the shock register on Sterling's face. The man's smirk vanished. André continued, his tone shifting from polite to academic. "Es heißt, Geschmort, nicht Geschmort. Die Zunge liegt weicher im Gaumen. Es ist ein subtler Unterschied, aber einer, den ein man von Welt wie Sie sicherlich zu schätzen weiß." The translation was devastating, it's pronounced Geschmort, not Geschmort. The tongue rests softer on the palate. It is a subtle difference, but one that a man of the world such as yourself would surely appreciate. He wasn't done. He looked at the now pale companion. "Und was Ihr Bemerkung betrifft," he said, his voice dropping to a confidential whisper, "nicht nur kann ich bis drei zahlen, ich konnte auch die Mangel in Ihrer Satzstruktur und die Arrogance, die Sie zu verbergen versucht, analysieren. Aber das war unter meiner Word. Und Ihrer Zeit. And as for your earlier remark, not only can I count to 3, I could also analyze the flaws in your sentence structure and the arrogance it attempts to conceal. But that would be beneath my dignity. And your time." Dead silence. You could have heard a pin drop. Arthur Sterling's face had turned a ghostly white, a mask of pure humiliation. He had been surgically dismantled, not with a shout, but with superior intellect. He tried to use a language as a weapon, and André turned it into a mirror. The silence was finally broken by a sound. A woman at a nearby table began to clap slowly. Then another diner joined in, and another. Soon, a wave of respectful applause rolled through Ethelgard's. An ovation for the quiet waiter who refused to be small. Arthur Sterling sat frozen, the clapping like tiny hammers on his skull. His power and wealth were meaningless. He was no longer the conqueror, he was the fool. The shame worked fast. Arthur Sterling, the man who commanded boardrooms, looked small and pathetic. He couldn't meet André's calm gaze. He fumbled for his wallet, threw a wad of cash on the table, a frantic gesture of escape, not generosity, and practically ran from the restaurant, his sidekick scrambling behind him. The applause died down, and André, with the same quiet composure, began to clear the table. He was a professional, and he would finish his job. That's when Daniel Harrison, the tech billionaire, stood up and walked over. He waited patiently until André turned around. "Excuse me," Harrison said warmly. "My name is Daniel Harrison." "André Santos, sir," André replied, still running on adrenaline. "André," Harrison said with a genuine smile, "I've been in business for 30 years, and that was one of the most impressive displays of character I have ever seen. What you did took more than intelligence. It took courage. Your dignity is worth more than his entire fortune. Don't you ever let anyone make you feel otherwise." André was speechless. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot." Harrison reached into his coat, pulling out a business card and a pen, along with a thick, folded envelope. "What Sterling threw on the table was an insult," Harrison said quietly. "This is a token of respect." He pointed to the card. "And that is an invitation. Your talents are being wasted here, André. When you're ready to discuss bigger things, give me a call. My personal number is on the back." With a final nod, Harrison left, leaving André standing alone. For a long moment, André just stared at the envelope and the card. His hands trembled slightly. Slowly, he picked up the heavy envelope and broke the seal. Inside was a thick stack of new $100 bills, thousands of dollars. Enough to pay his mother's medical bills, enough to lift the crushing weight off his shoulders. But tucked inside the money was something far more valuable, a handwritten note on thick, cream-colored paper. He unfolded it. The message was short, but it hit him like a tidal wave. It read, "André, talent must never be hidden by prejudice. Inside this envelope, you'll also find a first-class, open-ended plane ticket to Berlin. My company has its European headquarters there. I have an opening in my international relations department that has your name on it. The job is yours if you want it. This isn't charity. It's an investment. I believe in investing in greatness. Call me when you land." André read the note again, his eyes blurring. For the first time all night, his composure crumbled. A single tear rolled down his cheek. Not of sadness or anger, but of overwhelming relief. It was the feeling of being truly seen, valued not for his uniform but for his mind. That ticket wasn't just paper, it was a doorway. The job offer was a new life. A future where he would no longer be a ghost in a uniform but a voice in a boardroom. A world where his languages were his greatest asset, not a secret weapon. He stood there, under the glow of the chandeliers, and felt the entire universe shift. Conclusion and CTA. So, this story, in all its viral forms, isn't just about a waiter getting a big tip. It's about the truth that dignity isn't given to you, it's something you claim for yourself. Arthur Sterling thought his money gave him power, but he learned that real power lies in integrity and knowledge. Racism and prejudice try to make people small, but as this story shows, greatness always finds a way to rise. What would you have done in André's shoes? Would you have stayed quiet or spoken up? Let us know in the comments. Your voice matters. If this story inspired you, please give this video a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications for more powerful stories that remind us of the strength of the human spirit. Thanks for watching.